Hey there, and welcome to another video. Today, I'll be ranking every single monster indoors, and yes, that includes window and shadow, on a tier list to decide just how scary they really are. There will be 4 rankings on this tier list, in order from scariest to least scary. The first tier will be for genuinely horrifying monsters that will always get you jumping no matter what. The second tier is for monsters that are decently scary, but usually not enough to make you jump, and more will just make you unsettled. The third tier is for spooky monsters that really aren't that scary, but may give you the spooks if they appear out of nowhere. And the final, bottom tier, is for monsters that aren't scary at all. Do keep in mind that this whole tier list is my opinion, so don't take it too seriously. Anyways, let's get right into the video. So, starting off the tier list is the most common monster in the game, and that's Rush, who will be going into the scary category. Rush is a monster you'll be seeing a lot in the game, so eventually, you'll get kind of desensitized to him. However, on your first playthrough, he can be legitimately horrifying as you hear his roar and have to hide in a closet to avoid certain death. The sound design for Rush is amazing for instilling fear in players, and that paired with his speed and destruction of the lights makes Rush a fairly scary monster. The way his jump scare is designed is great, giving you a little grace period where you know he's going to jump scare you before actually doing it, kind of like what happens when the power runs out in FNAF. He also instantly kills you, so he doesn't give you any second chances. Rush is most scary when you least expect it, and are put in a position where a closet isn't close to you, because you'll be put under a lot of pressure to find something that isn't in sight to survive certain death. Overall, Rush is a pretty scary monster, and deserves a rank in the scary tier. Next up is Screech, who most people like to call the most annoying monster indoors, and he'll be settling in at the very top of the horrifying tier. Screech is a monster that only appears in the dark, so you won't have to run into him too much if you're lucky. However, in later levels where dark rooms appear very often, it's almost certain that you'll end up in darkness without a lighter to help you out. In these moments, it's absolutely horrifying, as you're constantly at the mercy of Screech, listening for that pissed sound. If you hear it, then you're forced to search around frantically until you find him, and once you do, you're either screamed at in the face, or get your head chomped off. No matter what you do, you're getting jump scared one way or another. The main thing that makes him scary is the uncertainty, where you know something bad is going to happen, but not when. For these reasons, Screech takes a place at the very top of the tier list. Now, let's move on to Eyes, who goes into the not scary category. Eyes is a really simple monster. He pops into thin air with a purple glow, and if you look at him, you begin to rapidly take damage. His sound effect is good, but it's more odd than scary, and you're given enough warning before he appears so that he isn't very surprising. This, added to the fact that Eyes is really easy to deal with, puts him at the bottom of the tier list in the not scary category. The 4th monster we'll be reviewing on the tier list is Halt, a very rare monster that damages you if you don't follow his instructions to turn around. Halt will be going into the kind of scary tier. When you first encounter Halt, it can be pretty scary, as you're transported to a completely different dimension without any idea of what's going on. However, once you figure out the pattern you have to follow, and begin making progress down the room, Halt becomes more of just an annoyance rather than an actual scare. He's not even too surprising either, since the lights flicker whenever he's supposed to be in the next room. Halt may be the nightmare of speedrunners, but for regular players, he's really just a daydream. And for that reason, Halt goes into the kind of scary category. For the 5th monster, let's talk about Figure, the main monster of the game. Figure will be placed into the scary category as he's the only monster that actively hunts you down. Now, it's pretty easy to avoid him initially. Just press the C button and you can walk around without having to be afraid of him making a beeline for you. However, Figure is a bit more sophisticated than most monsters of his type, because he can hear your heartbeat. This means that if he gets too close, he'll start moving towards you, forcing you to hide in a closet to survive. When you're forced into a closet, you have to play a minigame to silence your heartbeat that can be pretty tense at times. Figure's sound design is also scary, with a lot of roaring and stomping that puts into perspective just how much of a threat he is compared to the player. However, because of Figure's blindness, he doesn't make it into the top of the tier list, and merely settles in the scary tier. Moving on from Figure is another main monster, and that's Seek. I'll be putting Seek at the top of the tier list, below Screech, but above everyone else, because of how he works. Seek is a very straightforward monster. Around a quarter into the game, he'll pop out of the ground in a long hallway and chase you down through a series of rooms. These rooms can either have bookshelves you have to crawl under, false doors that will waste time and lead to your death, and at the final stretch, hands and fire that can end your run. He also has an amazing soundtrack during his chase, called Here I Come. Now, the main reason why Seek is scary is because of just how frantic his chase is. You have to move quick to avoid him, and look both ways as quickly as possible so that you don't go the wrong way. You also have to do all of this while avoiding the fire and the hands at the end of the chase that can kill you if you run into them. If you're lagging, it makes it even scarier, because you'll have to wait for the door to open before you can actually go through, wasting precious time. Everything about Seek, from his sound design to his chase scene, is great, and makes him one of the scariest monsters in the entire game. Now, let's move on to a rarer, but definitely more dangerous entity, and that's Ambush, who goes into the bottom of the horrifying tier. Ambush is definitely a scary entity when you first encounter him. His whole mechanic of basically being rushed, but repeated, is difficult for newer players, especially when you factor in Hide kicking you out of the closet. His sound effects are chilling and are definitely uncomfortable to listen to, and he also looks really creepy as a whole, and in my opinion, more creepy than Rush. Ambush is a dangerous monster to deal with, and because of how scary everything about him is, he definitely deserves a spot in the horrifying tier, taking everything that makes Rush scary and amplifying it. Let's talk about the monster that pairs up best with Ambush now, and that's Hide. Hide is going to be going into the scary tier. What I do like a lot is his effects when you're about to get jump scared. Your screen is severely darkened, there's a blood-like effect on it, your camera is forced to the ground when you're shoved out, and this effect lasts for a fairly long amount of time, which can be extremely unsettling on its own. There's even a ramp-up sound effect that adds to the fear factor of Hyde's effect. However, he falls short of the horrifying category because he's just too predictable and not really a threat. Hyde is scary, but simple, and deserves a spot in the scary tier. It's time to rank Timothy now, and the cheap arachnophobia jump scare deserves a spot in the very top of the scary tier. Timothy will never fail to make you jump out of your seat, because he's basically just a jump scare that you never see coming. He's scary, but that's really all he has. The spider doesn't have any lingering feeling of unease, and it's just a one-trick pony that scares you for a second before disappearing. Because of how simple he is, Timothy falls just short of the horrifying tier and settles in at the top of the scary tier. After Timothy is Glitch, who is going to go into the kind of scary tier. Glitch, similarly to Timothy, is a one-trick pony. He jump scares you, drops you off where your friends are, and that's it from him. His jump scare is definitely pretty freaky, but the fact that you know when he's coming, as well as him only doing one thing and not having any lingering feeling of unease, nor a real threat, lowers him into the kind of scary tier. Now, let's move on to our final active monster, and that's Jack, the closet jump scare himself. Jack is going to go into the scary tier. First off, his design is great. His monochrome color scheme, as well as a creepy smile on his face, makes him a very unsettling monster to look at. In addition to that, his sound design is quite creepy, with a deep roar that can definitely shock people when paired with his random chance of appearing. Jack also becomes extra scary when he shuts you out of a closet when Rush or something else is coming to kill you, because in those instances, you're forced to frantically mash the button to enter the closet in an attempt to save yourself from death. Whether he appears in the closet or in the hallway, Jack is a scary monster that is well designed for the spooks. Alright, for the second to last monster, we'll be talking about Window, who goes into the not scary tier. Window is just not scary, and I don't think he's made to be scary either. He's basically just a face in the window. That's all he is. No sound effects, no jump scare, no creepy design. He's just a simple face. There's not much to really say about Window, and because of that, he drops into the not scary tier. Finally, let's move on to the very last monster on this tier list, and that's Shadow. Shadow is going to go into the very bottom of the kind of scary tier, only barely being saved from the not scary tier by his sound design and jump scare factor. Shadow does appear randomly, and he does have a sound paired with it that can maybe get you to shudder a little or even jump out of your seat. For the most part though, he's fairly lame and really doesn't accomplish much worth talking about. He's not a threat, nor does he have any lingering feeling of fear, so he falls into the very bottom of the kind of scary tier. With Shadow having finally been ranked, that concludes the tier list. Of course, this whole thing is my opinion, so please don't take it too seriously. I ranked all of these monsters on how everything about them pairs up to scare players, so my tier list might be a bit different from yours. If you have your own tier list you'd like to share, then feel free to post it in the comments. With that being said, that's the end of the video. If you enjoyed, then please like and subscribe to help me out with my channel. It helps out a lot, and I'd greatly appreciate it. As always, I'm 𝓥𝓲𝓭𝓮𝓸, and I'll see you next time in another video. Have a great day!